guess Leppa, a few changes for this week.
Yeah,
some pretty handy ins, though.
Oh, there is. It's 2 weeks ago, so it's people often forget 2 weeks in footy. But it's been a while since we've played. But we had the guys out with the bug and Goose Maguire with suspension, and so there's four of those changes were probably always going to come back in. So it does look funny though when the 6 players come back in.
What about Zach making a debut, mate?
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, and it's a credit to Zach. I mean, we're a big part of rewarding our players that play well in our reserves, and he's done that. So yeah, it's a credit to him. Come off a rookie list, doing it the hard way. So it's always a good story when that happens.
And a couple of the younger boys, they might not necessarily be grateful for the rest, but you'd probably be glad to give them the spell as well in a different way.
Yeah, yes and no. I mean, it's Cuts and Robbo, they've been going pretty well. I mean, Cuts were going to rest last week, but then the illness struck and he had to come back in, so that was always on the cards for him. So hopefully it's not too long before they're back in. But as a journey in your first few years of AFL, you're sometimes in the team and sometimes spend moments out of it, but that doesn't sort of change our long-term planning for those boys.
Is it hard to tell when they'll be sitting out this week?
It always is. It's the worst part of the job. Thursday nights, I think any coach would tell you, is the worst time when you have to ring your players to tell them they're out of a team. It would clearly be the worst part of the job.
You mentioned Zach obviously having to do things the hard way. Is that you've rewarded him for effort? Is that a bit of a lesson to the other guys in the twos, a few more experienced guys that you've?
Well, I think we've tried to keep that mantra for most of the year. It's the same with Rainsy when he came back into the team. It's the same with Zach, and and Ryan Harwood's back in again as well from good form. So that's what we're about as well. I mean, there is the moment of you want to play your younger players and give them exposure, but you also want to reward those that are playing well. So we are very keen to do both with what our build is. It's not about just throwing guys out there if they're not up to it.
Did you use the time off to sort of, I guess, reflect on the season it's been so far and sort of reassess goals and things like that at all? I mean, has there been any talk of that over the
Yeah. I mean, that's what you tend to do with the break, and we did that everything through to our game planning, through to how we train and training times, and can we do meetings better, all those sorts of things. I would have thought most clubs sort of run through that, survey players, those sorts of things. Yeah.
Has there been much change? Has there been a heck of a lot of change?
How long have you got? Look, quite a few boring little things, training times and so forth. Nothing that you guys will get too excited about.
It's no secret it's been a tough year for the Lions. You've played some pretty quality opponents. The Blues themselves, they haven't really set the world on fire, so this must be seen as a real opportunity game.
Yeah, I think we've got a bit of a stretch coming up where we're playing some teams we think we can win. We can get the score on the board. I mean, I think there's been games with the bottom half teams on the ladder we've been quite competitive and only really had the one win against those teams. I think the year's proven so far the top 4 or 5 teams we've played, like Sydney and Port and Hawthorn, Geelong, we haven't quite been able to match them for long periods of time. But there's other sort of the lower level we've been able to match for periods of time. So I'd put Carlton and in that category. Got the Bulldogs the week after, and then GWS. So we've got some games coming up where I think we can be competitive to the point of victory, and that's really what you want. So it's a real opportunity for us. It doesn't mean you're going to win any of those, but it just gives the guys a little bit of hope.
You're still sort of trying to learn about your team, Leppa, and who can do what. You're making a number of changes each week. They're changing positions. Like, how much are you still trying to figure out about your idea?
You never stop learning in life, do you, Michael? Every week about people, about myself, about the direction of where we're going in positionally with players, and so there's a lot of things that our game planning won't change a lot, but the people in their roles and where it'll end up in the end, that often does swing throughout a year. And we're not the only footy club. I would have thought all footy clubs do that. Hopefully we're up for the challenge. I think we've had a really good week on the track. The guys are really well focused. Hopefully we get the reward we deserve.
Queensland sport fans have been passionate this week. They've had a lot to cheer about. How would you feel, say, there's been the debate thrown up again about a potential state of origin coming back to AFL?
I would have thought that's unlikely. Given I played in the very last one. Actually, that's how long ago it was, but last official one. But it's I'd say it's rather unlikely.
Is it just logistically too difficult?
Yeah, I mean, just given all the circumstances, will it actually make any money for a start? Our biggest product's our week-to-week game, so that's always been the case, and it sort of hasn't worked historically. And generally, history tells you what goes on in the future, doesn't it?
You enjoyed playing in it last time?
Yeah, it was great fun. Yeah, it was about 3 degrees in Melbourne. There were 20,000 people there, but it was it was good. Yeah.
This season has been talked about just so much as a rebuilding phase. Are you happy for it to be just that?
No, it's rebuilding. I mean, the hard part about seasons is a lot of reasons why the results come. Sometimes it's through individual players not going as well. Sometimes it's you get injuries like we've had. The thing about the year, it's not over. We're only halfway through it, so we still think we've got some fight in us to win games and finish the season off on a bit of a high. Because there's a lot of good work being done in the background that hasn't sort of seen the results on the field yet. But yeah, any year when you have to debut 6 players, and this is 7 coming up this week, you know what sort of year it is, don't you? You know it's going to have a year with, probably some inconsistencies on the field. But, teams go through those cycles.